everybody, Joe here. I have a real party food for you today. I have a feeling a lot of people are going to be celebrating today. And coming up to the holidays, this is something that I love to make. We used to make this for our guests all the time. It's really simple. It is a tiny bit more advanced than some of the things I usually do. We're going to make a rough puff, which is kind of like a puff pastry, only a quick version to a puff pastry. And I'm going to show you how to make some pesto snails that are fantastic for when you want to have a drink and relax, got a couple people coming over, or just like date night at home. These are fantastic. You can also freeze the dough, bake them up later. So this is one of my favorite things to do. I also have a pesto video that I did a little while ago, which I will repost so you could make your own pesto. If not, don't worry about it. Just buy some, use what you have on hand. You don't have any pesto, throw some herbs in, throw some cheese in, maybe some tomato sauce. Like, you really get creative. So the first thing I'm gonna do is put 1 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour. I use organic flour. I just find it has a better flavor and texture. So 1 1/4 cups into your food processor. If you don't have a food processor, you can do this by hand. It's a little bit more work. I have a scone video where I show you how I kind of work the butter into the dough. Totally doable. So you can go at it and let me know how it goes. The next thing I'm gonna put in, I usually weigh everything. So it's 250 grams of flour, 250 grams of really, really cold butter. I like to weigh it. These scales, I talk about them all the time. They're like $30. Get one for yourself. It really will help your recipes come out the same every single time. So what I'm gonna do with this butter is I wanna just cube it. And then what we're gonna do that is just it's very, very cold. You're gonna cut down the stick. This is technically 2 1/4 sticks of butter if you don't have a scale. So I've cut it kind of into 4 pieces there, and then I'm just gonna cut kind of small cubes. And what you wanna end up with is like these little cubes. That will distribute through your butter really, really well and give you a nice, light, fluffy pastry. Trust me, you can use this pastry for everything. So this is worth sort of getting your hands dirty for. So I've measured my butter out like this. If you have sticks, don't worry. I'm just gonna kind of cut it down into like stick form. Okay. It's nice to get the butter kind of nice and even in sticks because it'll just help it get through your flour a little bit easier. So I'm just kind of cutting this into 8 sort of tiny sticks, and then I'm gonna cut across this way. Easier if you have sticks, but us pastry people, we just cut it off the old block. Okay, so now generally I would do this and put it back in the fridge to make sure it's really, really cold, but who has the time? I don't. So I'm just gonna throw them in here. I like a lot of salt in it, and I also like to put a lot of spices. I have some cumin today, which I love to use, so I'm gonna put that in the dough. What else do I have? I have some spicy pimenton that somebody gave me. So excited about this. That's pretty spicy, but that's going in there. And of course, salt. I like to put a lot of salt in. I'm gonna put 3, maybe 2 very big teaspoonfuls of salt. Pepper if you want, fresh pepper, works great. Now I'm gonna pulse this until the butter is sort of pea-sized chunks through. And then we're gonna add a little bit of water in. So I'm just gonna pulse this through. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm gonna say we need a tiny bit more. So the chunks now are, if you can see this, let's see. I have some sort of like bigger chunks in here and some smaller chunks, but I also need a little bit of cold water. Water should be really, really cold. And I'm gonna use about 2 tablespoons of water, not more. You want this dough to be sort of dry, not too wet, otherwise it won't puff that nicely. So with the machine running, I'm gonna add in 2 tablespoons. That's 1/4 cup. In case you only have 1/4 cup, it's 1/4 cup. So I'm gonna let it run. And I'm gonna pour this in, just 2 tablespoons. And I'm going to wait for that to kind of come into a little bit of a dough. It doesn't take long. You'll hear it kind of like starting to come together. It's coming, it's coming, it's coming. It's starting, you can see it. Okay, and just when it starts to kind of like come together, I'm gonna stop the machine. Let me show you what it's done here. See, it's starting to come together. What you want is that when you pick it up, it's holding together like this. That's what you want. Okay, get all your bits off the blade here. Now I'm gonna flour my work surface just a little bit. I don't want it too dry. And I'm gonna kind of squeeze all these little bits together. It feels amazing. If you've never made dough like this before, don't worry. It's kind of hard to screw up because it's rough puff. It's not perfect puff pastry. You kind of want to work quickly. You don't want your warm hands to warm up the butter in here because you want the butter to be nice and cold so that it puffs. So what I've done is I'm just pressing it flat so it all sticks together. Then I'm going to kind of layer it. The way they make puff pastry is that they put layers and layers and layers of butter between flour, and that gives you those beautiful layers. We're going to kind of cheat. I folded it over, press it back down, then I'm going to fold it again. That's my kind of cheats way of layering. That layering will be enough for us to make this recipe. It'll be great. Okay, so now I'm going to push it into a little bit of a rectangle here. Again, I don't want to work it too much with my hands. And normally I would take this dough and I would wrap it and I would put it in the fridge for 30 minutes, get it nice and chilled, but I'm not gonna wait. I'm gonna show you guys right now. So I'm gonna reflour my work surface a little bit. I'm gonna reflour my nice rolling pin. My friend Rebecca gave me this, so thank you, Rebecca. It's beautiful from France. And what I wanna do here is I just wanna keep the rectangular shape. If it's sticking too much, throw a little more flour, not too much. I want to get a nice rectangular shape. The other thing is, if you don't want to make this, you buy puff pastry. Try and buy all butter puff pastry. I know we've talked about it before. If you go to a bakery, especially if you're in Montreal and Quebec, you could go to Premier Moisson. They have a really nice frozen puff pastry. Works great. I don't want anything to stick under here. And I'm going to get this fairly thin. Let's see how thin we'll get it. We want to be able to roll this. So again, we're making some pesto snails. Oh God, just talking about them, I love them. Covered in flour again. How does that happen? All right, so you want the dough, make sure it's all sticking together. Try and get it in one even square. Again, don't worry too much about this. You're supposed to have fun with this, and they're gonna puff up anyways. Okay, so I have a nice square here, rectangle, and I've made some pesto. I have an almond, roasted garlic, and spinach pesto that we use at the kitchen. We put this in grilled cheese. It's incredible. So I'm gonna use pretty much all of this. Use whatever pesto you have. I'm just gonna load it into the middle here. I'll hold back just a little bit. And I'm gonna just spread this, not all the way to the edges, but just all the way around. And get a really nice, I like to kind of have a thick layer in here. I probably could use more. That was probably 3/4 of a cup of pesto. Maybe I would use 1 full cup. Oh, this is gonna be so good. I've also preheated my oven to 450 degrees, and I have a sheet behind me with some parchment on it, and line it with parchment or a Silpat if you have one of those. Now we have a beautiful piece of pastry with pesto on it. So I'm gonna do a little roll, like a sleeping bag, from one end. Don't worry too much about this. Roll as best you can, trying to keep it nice and tight so you don't have any big air bubbles. Okay, roll, 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 roll all the way. You don't want to squeeze your pesto out either, so roll. Okay, now I've got a nice, big, beautiful log here. I'm just gonna kind of pinch in the edges here. Okay, feel a little bit of air. I didn't do a great job. Okay, so then I'm gonna take my knife. Again, you could chill it at this point. If you chill at this point, you're gonna have something that puffs a little bit higher and bigger. I don't have the time, so I'm just gonna slice it like this. Remembering not to kind of hold it and hang on to it too much with my warm hands. This is covered in butter. Okay, I'm gonna do some nice big slices, but you could also do some nice thin slices, and it makes almost like a little, you know, puff pastry kind of chip, like a little Parmesan chip. You could, of course, put tons of Parmesan in here. We're gonna put some cheese on top, which is gonna be amazing. Okay, so I'm cutting into how many? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. Probably get 12 out of there. So I'm gonna take my pastry lined sheet. I like to kind of fold it in just so in the oven it doesn't kind of like fly over. And then I'm gonna put these on the sheet, giving them some space apart. Ooh, the middle ones are gonna be so good. So this is a spinach pesto. Use whatever you have. You know, in the video that I'm gonna post, we did a carrot pesto. It would be fantastic. Use any kind of cheese. If you're dairy-free, you can make a pesto without cheese. So I have these beautiful rounds here now. What I like to do is put a little extra pepper over them sometimes. I don't think I even put any pepper, put some pepper on them, which will be great. You could also do something like sprinkle some, I have some black and white sesame seeds. I'm gonna sprinkle those over top, give it a little nutty flavor. Use what you have, get creative. And then I'm gonna put over, I have about 1.5 cups of grated cheddar cheese here. You could use Parmesan, which I love. And I'm just gonna kind of put that on top. It's okay if it's spilling off, because what's gonna happen is the cheese that spills off is gonna make a really, really nice crunchy crust around the edge that's really fun to eat if you're having a drink or you know, just getting ready for a movie night, date night, election night. So, okay, so 1.5 cups of cheese. I'm gonna kind of put it evenly over. I've grated this on a, you know, pretty fine grater because I want it to be kind of fluffy. You don't want a big kind of fat grate. It'll take a long time to melt over. So there you go. And I'm gonna throw these in the oven, 450 degrees at the bottom shelf. That way a lot of heat will come up and it's gonna puff them from the bottom. These are going in. And I will show you the finished result that I have slathered with some extra pesto. These are so good. So they're crispy, they're light, they're fluffy, and you know, these are so great to bring to a friend, drop off. Really amazing for the holidays, whatever holiday you celebrate. Just really a special treat, and you've made it from scratch. And as you could see, it really didn't take that long. Takes really simple ingredients. Use what you have. I make tons of pesto and then I freeze it in smaller bags so I could just pull out a small portion of pesto and make something like this. So cheers to you, everybody. Hope you're having a great weekend. Oh my God. I can't wait for you to try these. So look at huge bite. It's so buttery, so flaky. Like, it tastes like you bought it at a store. Incredible. So I hope you make these. Tag us online at Zoe Ford Montreal. Sign up for our newsletter at zoeford.com. We also have our weekly delivery, and we're shipping all our pantry stuff across Canada. We have lots that we're adding all the time. So stay up to date with us. Thanks for watching the video. And if you have any questions, DM me. I might have to go give these away to my neighbors, lucky neighbors, because if I have these in the house, I will eat them all. So have a great weekend, and see you next weekend.